I am an orphan. Perhaps I was abandoned due to a preference for sons over daughters, or maybe I was the result of a fleeting romance. Yi found me. That year, he returned to the city from the countryside due to a policy change and saw me at the train station, a pretty, quiet baby girl among the garbage. Many people gathered around, and when he approached, I gave him a bright smile. He gave me a home and a beautiful name, Tao Yao. Later, he said my initial smile convinced him I deserved a name that signified beauty and vitality. Yi had a life full of sorrow. Both of his parents were scholars who returned to China but did not survive the cultural upheaval, passing away in their grief. Yi was also not spared. He was sent to the countryside, separated from his longtime girlfriend. He remained alone until he found me at the age of 35 when he returned to the city. I called Yi uncle. My childhood memories are mostly happy, with one exception at school. Some naughty boys called me bastard. I ran home crying and told Yi. The next day, he came to pick me up and asked the boys, who called her a bastard. Seeing the tall and imposing Yi, they remained silent. He sneered, "If anyone says that again, I'll beat them up." Someone muttered, "She's not your real child, so she is a bastard." Yi held my hand and smiled, "But I treasure her more than a biological daughter. Whose clothes are prettier than hers? Whose shoes and backpack are nicer? She drinks milk and eats bread every morning. What do you eat?" The kids were discouraged and never called me bastard again. As I grew older, this incident always made me smile. Compared to most orphans, I was much luckier. My favorite place was the study, filled with books and a folding desk by a large bright window. On sunny days, I loved watching Yi work, his focused profile like a silhouette against the light. I always found my own books to read, curling up on the sofa. Yi would occasionally glance back at me, his smile warmer than the winter sunlight outside. When I got tired, I would lean on his shoulder, watching him draw and write. He'd laugh, "When you grow up, you can do my job." I'd pout, "No way, it's too dirty and makes you so tan." I forgot to mention, Yi was an architectural engineer, but neither the sun nor the dirt could affect his appearance. He always looked elegant and tidy. Over the years, several women tried to enter his life. When I was 8, he almost married one of them. She was honest, smart, and beautiful, but for some reason, I didn't like her. Her smile always seemed fake. Yi's smile, on the other hand, was sweet and warm. When she was around, I feared her. One day, while I was looking at a picture book on the balcony, she asked, "Where are your real parents? Have they never come to see you?" I was stunned and didn't know what to say. She clicked her tongue and said, "This kid is so dumb, no wonder they didn't want her." I was shocked. But Yi came over, his face pale with anger. He took my hand and silently led me away. That night, I cried under the covers, and Yi held me, saying, "Don't be afraid, Tao Yao, don't cry." After that, she never came to our house again. Later, I overheard his friend Xiu Fei ask, "Why did you break up again?" Yi said, "She wasn't a good person. Marrying her would mean a hard life for Tao Yao." Qiu Fei said, "You still can't forget Yilan at 8 years old." I remembered the name. When I grew up, I learned that Yilan was Yi's old girlfriend. We relied on each other, and Yi handled everything well, even helping me through adolescence. After I got into college, I lived on campus since it was far from home, and only came back on weekends. Sometimes Yi would ask, "Do you have a boyfriend?" I would just smile. There were a few decent boys at school who liked to be around me, but none of them caught my eye. Some were handsome but had poor grades, others were good students but plain looking, and some had both good looks and grades but acted too rough. I rarely talked to boys, thinking they were all immature and shallow. They always tried too hard to show their best side, which lacked stability. On my 20th birthday, Yi gave me a ruby ring. He had been buying me small pieces of jewelry over the years, saying that a young woman needed nice things to adorn herself. After dinner, he took me shopping and bought me whatever I liked. Back at school, I noticed classmates gossiping about me, but I didn't care since I was used to it because of my background. One day, a close friend pulled me aside and said, "They say you have an older boyfriend." I was puzzled. Who said that? She said, "Several people saw you shopping with him, looking very affectionate. They think that's why you don't like the poor guys here." I laughed, my face slowly turning red as I realized the misunderstanding. I didn't explain, just quietly sat reading, my face staying warm for a long time. When I went home for the weekend, I did my usual cleaning. Jae's room was spotless, with his frequently worn wool sweater draped over the bed. It was a beige pullover I had picked out, though he initially wanted a gray one. At the time, he had joked, "All right, if that's what you want. Looks like you think I'm old and want me to dress younger." I slowly folded the sweater, smiling at the memories. In the following weeks, I noticed Jae was in high spirits, walking with a spring in his step, and sometimes humming tunes, much like when I got into college. I was puzzled. On Friday, he called, asking me to come home early for dinner. As he shaved and changed clothes, I teased, "Are you seeing someone?" He laughed. "I'm too old for that. We're meeting your Uncle Qiu and an old friend. Just call her Aunt Ye." I knew it was Yilan. On the way, Ji told me they reconnected through Qiu Fei. Yilan's husband had died a few years ago, and their reunion had gone well. If all went smoothly, they planned to marry. I felt a chill as my feet grew cold, the sensation spreading upward. At the restaurant, I objectively assessed Yilan. She was slightly plump but not overweight, with remnants of her youthful charm. Compared to women her age, she still had some advantages. But next to the dashing Jia Yi, she looked older. She was kind and affectionate towards me, clearly fond of Ziyi. At home, Ji Yi asked, "What do you think of Aunt Yi?" I said, "Since you're planning to marry her, I have to say she's great." I stayed awake until dawn. Back at school, I fell ill, trying to keep up with classes despite a fever, until I collapsed. I woke up in the hospital with an IV drip, Jae by my side. I smiled weakly. "Where am I?" He touched my forehead, relieved. "You finally woke up. You had viral pneumonia. You need to take better care of yourself." I smiled. If I'm meant to get sick, being careful won't help. Except for work, Jae stayed by my side in the hospital. Every time I woke up, he was there, looking thinner and more disheveled. I sighed. "Uncle, you should go home." "I'm fine," he smiled bitterly. "How can you be fine? You've had a high fever for 3 days. I begged the doctor to admit you." After being discharged, Jae insisted I take a semester off. I couldn't refuse, feeling a sense of relief. Life became simple and calm: breakfast with Ziyi, then walks in the garden or by the river. Jae remained in good spirits, often reading in the study at night. One rainy morning at the end of summer, he suddenly had a heart attack and passed away, despite rescue efforts. Before he died, he held my hand and said, "I wanted to personally see you marry a good man, to put the ring on your finger. I don't have time now." Tears streamed down my face. He forgot that he had already given me a ring when I turned 20. In his desk drawer, I found a short letter: "Tao Yao, I've gone. You can miss me, but don't let it consume you. Living peacefully and happily is the best comfort you can give me, Uncle." I didn't cry uncontrollably. In the middle of the night, I could still hear him say, "Tao Yao, be careful." While sorting his belongings in the study, I found a dusty, simple pottery jar. I cleaned it and was stunned. It had no decorations, only 4 lines. "Before I was born, you were already old. I was born, and you were already aging. I regret we weren't born at the same time, so we could have spent every day together." Only then did my tears flow uncontrollably.